Yes guys, welcome back to another episode of Brad Parker TV. Thanks once again for tuning in and watching the video. If you do enjoy it, please make sure you hit that like button, and also if you haven't done so already, please make sure you hit that subscribe button to get more content from me in future. Now, big weekend ahead of us in the Premier League this weekend. I'm talking about one game in particular, and that is of course the early kickoff on Saturday, a local derby, a huge game where two teams have massive points to prove, and I am of course talking about the Manchester derby. Manchester United versus Manchester City at Old Trafford. In terms of the Premier League, they do not get much bigger than this. Actually, in world football, they don't get much bigger than this. This is a huge game in the Premier League that we have this weekend, and it is going to be an exciting one. What I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give you what I think is my best ever combined Manchester United, Manchester City starting 11 in the Premier League. This was a bit of a tricky one because there has been some absolute galactic players played for the two clubs during the course of the Premier League. More recently, Manchester City in the last 10 years or so, but then the 20 something years prior to that, it was all Manchester United. So it was a bit of a tricky one. But I'm going to share that team with you right now, who I think is the best combined 11 from Manchester United and Manchester City in the Premier League era. I am going to start off at my goalkeeper. Where else would you start? The man between the sticks. Now, there wasn't much choice at goalkeeper for me. There was probably only a couple of options, really. I'm not going to go with the obvious one in goal because a lot of people would put Peter Schmeichel there. A lot of people say Peter Schmeichel is the best goalkeeper in Premier League history. And I'm not disagreeing with that. This is just my opinion. The reason that I'm not going with Peter Schmeichel is because I never saw Peter Schmeichel play. He's before my era. I've never seen Peter Schmeichel play football. I've only seen clips of him on YouTube. So I can't get excited by that. I can't get excited by watching clips of someone who I've never seen. So that's why there wasn't much choice for me on this one. I'm going to go with the red side of Manchester for this one. And you've probably guessed it. It is Edwin van der Sar. Edwin van der Sar played hundreds of games for Manchester United. He kept so many clean sheets during that time. He won multiple Premier League titles. He also won a Champions League title with Manchester United as well. He was a very safe pair of hands between the sticks, and I think he was a fantastic goalkeeper. And that's for me why Edwin van der Sar makes the team. Who were my other choices there realistically? I've already mentioned Peter Schmeichel and the reasons why I didn't pick him. Let's think about other goalkeepers during that time. David De Gea, very good goalkeeper, just not consistent enough. Who else during that period of time? We've got Joe Hart, who played for Manchester City, and he was the goalkeeper that they had when they won their very first Premier League title. Played for Manchester City for a number of years, but then did fall out of favour when Pep Guardiola took charge of the team. Now for me, Joe Hart doesn't get anywhere near this side really. He was an average goalkeeper, not great. But then the other choice was a player that is playing at the minute, currently in the Premier League, at Manchester City. It's Ederson. Now, probably would have been a controversial one if I had picked Ederson. The reason that I think he could be within a shout of this is because Ederson has won multiple Premier League trophies with Manchester City. He gave them some stability at the back. He's very good with his feet. He's a very good goalkeeper and probably in the top two goalkeepers in the Premier League right now. If Ederson continues to put in the performances that he's doing at the minute at Manchester City, he wins a couple of more Premier League titles over the next 5 years. And if he was to guide them to a Champions League, which I do think is on the cards, Manchester City will win a Champions League in the next few years, then I think Ederson could take that spot off Edwin van der Sar. But right now, I'm going to go with Edwin van der Sar in goal. I had three choices at right back, and this was a bit of a harder pick, this one. And I had to think about, if I was a manager, who would I want in my team? The three choices that I had here, one of them was from Manchester United, and that is the obvious choice. And two of them are from Manchester City. All three of them have won Premier League titles, and all three very different types of player. But if I was a manager picking my starting 11, the player that I would want at that right back spot is the Argentinian Pablo Zabaleta. I'll get some stick for this one because, like I said before, I haven't gone with the obvious choice again, which would be Gary Neville. Most people would pick Gary Neville, and with great reason, because Gary Neville has won multiple Premier League titles. He's won lots. He's won loads of trophies with Manchester United. He played hundreds and hundreds of games for Manchester United as well, put in some quite consistent performances. But I think Gary Neville would even say himself, he was an average player. Like, he wasn't the best right back in the world when he was playing for Manchester United. He was just a solid right back. Now, for me, Pablo Zabaleta, at the time when Manchester City won that Premier League title, he stood out more in that Manchester City side than what Gary Neville ever did in the Manchester United side. Pablo Zabaleta was an absolute machine at right back. He was probably one of the last of a dying breed of fullbacks in the Premier League as well, because he wasn't an attacking fullback at all. He only got a handful of goals and assists for the club. He was just a solid old school right back. And yeah, during his 6-7 years, whatever he had at Manchester City, he was consistently the best right back in the league. And that's for me why Zabaleta makes this team. I'm not going to do my centre backs yet. I'm going to hop over to the other full back, left back. Actually, there was only one choice that I had here at left back. Again, a lot of people would be looking in at the 90s in this, but I didn't watch football then, so I'm not going to pick Dennis Irwin. All of you want me to pick Dennis Irwin. I am not going to pick Dennis Irwin. I have gone for someone who played for the same club as Dennis Irwin. He played for Manchester United, and I've gone with Patrice Evra. Patrice Evra was a fantastic player in the Premier League. Again, someone who won lots of trophies for Manchester United, a very consistent performer as well. Always wanted to win, hated losing, was never scared of getting stuck in there and getting into tackles. He was a great passer. He actually did attack quite a bit as well. Actually, he's probably one of the first fullbacks who got past the halfway line and actually got amongst the assists and things like that as well. So for me, that's why I think Patrice Evra deserves to be in this team. Now, this was a tricky one. My centre-backs. There was lots to choose from at centre-back. But I've based this on, again, if I was a manager, who would I want in there? I want leaders at the back. And that's why I've gone with these players. The first one, I'm going to stay at Manchester United this time. And I am going to go with a player who was consistent, and I mean consistent. He never had a bad game. He was an absolute animal. It is Nemanja Vidic. Now, Nemanja Vidic, for me, would make my all-time Premier League 11, not just Manchester. He would make the best ever, one of the best ever centre-backs in the Premier League era. The reason for that is he was just relentless. Like, you've all seen the pictures. If you type in Nemanja Vidic, it's just going to be pictures of him covered in blood, because he would dive into challenges. He would dive at players' feet head first to win a header. He would just get stuck into tackles. He would nut the post if he had to. He was an absolute animal. There was just not many players that would get past him. Not many players that would want to play against him, and that's why I've gone with Nemanja Vidic. Now, the other centre-back, this is the one where I struggled a little bit because there was a lot of players I could have put alongside Nemanja Vidic. Now, a lot of people would expect me to go for his partner at the back, Rio Ferdinand, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to hop across to the other side of Manchester, and there's only one man. It's Vincent Kompany. What a leader Vincent Kompany was for Manchester City. The absolute backbone of that Manchester City side. He was an absolute rock. Again, a consistent performer when he was fit. That was probably the only flaw in his game, that he was injured quite a lot during his time at Manchester City. But what seemed to happen was he would get injured and then he would come back, and he would come back even better or just as good every time. His performances never seemed to drop, even if he had 6 or 7 months on the sidelines. He would come back and just be as good as or better than what he was when he left. And if we think about the Premier League titles he won, that first one, fantastic. But that last one that he won for Manchester City, when he scored that goal from 30, 40 yards out against Leicester, wow, what a special moment. That was for me, one of the greatest Premier League moments of all time, and I'll never ever forget that. And that's why Vincent Kompany makes my squad. On to midfield now. Now midfield, there's a host of players that could have made this side as well. What I decided to do was I decided to go with one defensive midfielder and then two other centre mids as well. Defensive midfield was a little bit easier. I'm going to go with, you all know who I'm going to pick here. Probably one of the greatest leaders ever to play in the Premier League, and that's of course Roy Keane. Roy Keane, I don't really need to say much about Roy Keane. Roy Keane, absolute animal, absolute leader. He would tell you himself, not the best footballer, not technically the best footballer, but he got the job done and he drove his team forward. He won multiple Premier League titles as captain. He deserves to be in this team. So, the other two centre mids, who am I going to go with? These ones were a bit trickier. Roy Keane was the only nailed on one. Now, I had probably about 4 or 5 players that I really wanted to put in this team, but I can only have 2. I've gone with, let's stay at Manchester United this time. It has to be Paul Scholes. I was looking for reasons why not to put Paul Scholes in the squad, and there wasn't many reasons why I couldn't put Paul Scholes there. One of the best passes you will ever see of a ball, one of the best strikers of a ball you would ever see. If you have a look at contemplations of Paul Scholes' best ever goals for Manchester United, it's an unbelievable watch. He scored some absolutely amazing goals. Most players who have played with Paul Scholes would always say that he was the best player at Manchester United. Some of the absolute legends of the game, the likes of Zinedine Zidane, he was asked in an interview, what's it like to be the best midfielder in the world? And he said, you'll have to go and ask Paul Scholes. So, that just shows you the admiration that Paul Scholes had from other footballers around the world, not just Manchester United fans. And that's why I couldn't leave him out of this squad. The next central midfielder, I am going to pick a Manchester City one this time. And there was a few that I could pick from. In fact, three players that I wanted to get in there so bad, but there was only room for one of them. It's David Silva. The Spanish magician, he was fantastic. And he seemed to get better and better as he got older as well. As he got into his 30s, he was playing a little bit deeper for the side, but seemed to score more goals. It was just bizarre, but David Silva is just an absolute wizard on the ball. Like, so many assists, so many great goals, and he rarely had. I honestly can't think of a bad performance that David Silva ever had in a Manchester City shirt. He's tearing it up for Real Sociedad now in Spain. He just seems to get better with age, and that does happen for some players. But David Silva, for me, makes this side. I'm on to my front three now. I'm going to start on the left wing. If I say the words left wing and I say Manchester, there's only one man that comes to mind, and that's of course Mr. Ryan Giggs. Ryan Giggs, for me, makes this side. I don't think he's necessarily the best player, and I think some people do overhype what he is. I don't think he's one of the best ever wingers in the Premier League. He's probably not the best left winger in the Premier League ever, but definitely in Manchester, he's the best left winger that there ever is. Most assists in Premier League history. So many appearances for the club, so many titles, so many consistent performances, even as he got older as well, and he was nearing 40 when he retired. He was just such an epic footballer. So many special moments, so many special memories from Manchester United, and I can't think of any other names that I would put in there ahead of Ryan Giggs, so that's why he makes the squad. The right wing now, I'm not going to lie, there was only one name again that came to mind here. He still plays for the club. Actually, he's just come back. It's Cristiano Ronaldo. For me, and I've said in one of my previous videos, the greatest player to ever play football. Now, he is more of a striker now since he's come back to Manchester United and when he played for Juventus, but for me, there was just no other option here. Nobody comes close to Cristiano Ronaldo. And when he played at Manchester United, he was a right winger then. He won the Ballon d'Or when he played for Manchester United. He broke the record for most goals in a season. That's since been beat. But for a right winger, 31 Premier League goals that season, if you think back, have we ever seen a player that good, like, in the Premier League ever? Like, he just put in so many amazing, mind-blowing performances. Have we ever seen anything like it? I don't think we'll ever see anything like it again. We might be seeing something a little bit close to that right now with the likes of Mohamed Salah, but still nowhere near what Cristiano Ronaldo did during his first spell at Manchester United. Won the Premier League 2, 3, 4 times, whatever it was, in 6 years. Won the Champions League. Won a Ballon d'Or. It doesn't get much better than that. It has to be Ronaldo. This one was the most difficult to choose. I'm only allowed to put one striker in this team. And if you think about all the amazing strikers that Manchester United in particular have had in the Premier League, it is so hard to pick. We have Wayne Rooney, Robin van Persie, Ruud van Nistelrooy, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Andy Cole, Teddy Sheringham, Dwight York. So many strikers that we could include in this side. But actually, there's one player who didn't play for that team who I think is better than all of them. It is Sergio Aguero. Sergio Aguero, for me, is, in terms of Premier League history, he is the second best striker in Premier League history. Thierry Henry is number 1 for me, and then Sergio Aguero comes in after that. I just think Sergio Aguero is the man to rely on. He didn't do step overs or anything like that. He wasn't much of a flair player, but in some seasons he would be quiet. But then you'd read his stat and he's actually scored 25 goals this season. Like, it was just bizarre. Like, he always scores. I think we just got so used to him scoring, a little bit like Ronaldo and Messi. Like, we just got so used to him scoring, like we just didn't acknowledge it anymore. And I really do think if he played his entire career at Manchester City, from him being 17 or 18-year-old, he could have potentially broke Alan Shearer's record. That's how good of a striker Sergio Aguero is. Probably the second choice for me in this list probably would have been Wayne Rooney. He was such a good player, Wayne Rooney. Manchester United and England top scorer of all time. That is unbelievable. But for me, it has to be Sergio Aguero. And that's it, guys. Here is my final combined Manchester United, Manchester City 11 of all time. Thanks so much for watching the video, guys. I hope you did enjoy it. Please let me know in the comments if you agree with my team, and if not, who would you have in there instead? I already know what you're going to say. I know who you're going to disagree with already. There's some obvious ones in there and probably some less obvious ones, some that you guys would have chosen that I wouldn't. But remember, this is just my opinion. I am always eager to hear what your thoughts are as well. So please do let me know in the comments below. If you haven't done so already, like I said at the beginning, please make sure you hit that subscribe button to get more content from me. Until next time, this has been Brad Parker TV.